Welcome, everyone. It's 5:30. We're going to go ahead and start our workshop meeting. We'll begin with a roll call from our city clerk, Kathy Valdez.
The record shall reflect that all members are present.
And the deputy mayor will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance this evening.
Thank you. Please rise. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, to speak on an item on tonight's agenda, please fill out a speaker slip with the number of the item you'd like to speak on and give it to the clerk secretary's staff here at the dais. Speaker slips are available on the table just outside the city council chambers. For those participating via Zoom, you may use the raise your hand feature to indicate that you'd like to speak, or press star 9 on your phone. We will announce when to raise your hand to indicate you'd like to make a comment on the specific item being discussed. Speakers will each have 3 minutes. We will now go to City Manager John Conley for the approval of tonight's agenda.
Thank you, Mayor. No changes to this evening's agenda.
Okay, and we do have one presentation this evening, and I'd like to invite my colleagues to join me at the lectern to make it. All right, this evening we'd like to present a proclamation recognizing North County Ford. Here to accept the proclamation is General Manager Frank Pierce. I'll let you show that off to everybody, and I'll read it out for folks. So, our proclamation reads, whereas the City of Vista is proud to recognize North County Ford for 33 years of service and commitment to the community, and for being a trusted provider of dependable automotive sales and services, and whereas North County Ford's mission is to exceed customer needs and build lasting relationships, they are committed to providing exceptional customer service, transparency, integrity, and professionalism throughout their dedicated team of experts. North County Ford has created meaningful career opportunities for the local community, employing over 80 individuals in diverse roles, with the majority residing right here in the City of Vista and the Tri-City area. Whereas North County Ford has played a significant role in workforce development by hiring graduates from the Vista Unified School District, supporting technical training programs, and fostering career education through partnerships with local schools and colleges, North County Ford's leadership has demonstrated a commitment to education, with General Manager Frank Pierce engaging business students at Vista High School and Palomar College in insightful discussions about the automotive industry, and shop foreman Micah Waters leading hands-on discussions and training sessions for the Vista High School automotive class. Whereas North County Ford has consistently provided outstanding service to its customers while also supplying $400,000 worth of automotive parts monthly to Vista small businesses, strengthening our local economy. We love that sales tax. Whereas North County Ford has remained deeply committed to enrichment, to community enrichment through charitable giving and sponsorships, including its longstanding support of the Vista Strawberry Festival, the Vista Christmas Parade, and the Rising Star Program, as well as donations to local sports teams, the Rancho Buena Vista High School Band, and numerous nonprofit organizations. And whereas North County Ford recently partnered with Vista Deputy Mayor Katie Melendez to sponsor the second annual shoe drive, generously donating 100 pairs of shoes to the MAC project in Vista, ensuring that local families in need receive essential support. And whereas North County Ford has been a proud sponsor of the City of Vista's annual 4th of July event in the years 2017, 2019, 2021, 2022, and just announced 2025, I hope. Right. Thank you. Contributing to the success and celebration of this patriotic event, which brings together families, neighbors, and visitors to celebrate the spirit of freedom and community. Now, therefore, I, as the mayor of Vista and the members of the Vista Council, do hereby proclaim and commend North County Ford for over 3 decades of service as a cornerstone of Vista's business community and for exemplifying corporate responsibility through its investments in economic development, education, and philanthropy. Thank you, Frank. Can you take a photo with us? Absolutely right. Here, come stand right up here. Get these chairs. Oh, right. Okay, that'll bring us to the oral communications opportunity at this meeting. Any member of the public may address the City Council on agency-related matters that are not on the agenda by requesting to speak during this section of the agenda. If you are participating via Zoom, please use the raise your hand feature or press *9 now if you'd like to speak. The number of speakers heard during this segment will be limited to 10. Any remaining speakers will be heard under the second oral communications item. Do we have any requests to speak? Okay, seeing no requests to speak, we will now close the opportunity for public comment at this meeting, and we'll proceed to our one discussion item this evening, which is an update on the Vista Economic Development Strategy. If there are any members of the public that wish to speak on this item, they may indicate so by using the raise your hand feature, by pressing *9, or by submitting a request to speak card. Speakers will be called upon after the presentation. Our Economic Development Director, Larry Voppel, will introduce the item. Mr. Voppel.
Good evening, Mayor Franklin and members of the City Council. Tonight, we will discuss the Vista Economic Development Strategy, provide an update on that. That was passed in 2021, and then also get input from you for items and programs for the next 2 years. To kick things off, our economic development staff totals 2 people, and you've seen the thickness of the VEDS. And so we can't do it alone. And so we partner with some great organizations throughout the county and the region. And 3 of them are here tonight. The one who cannot be here is the Chamber of Commerce. And they will do a little presentation at the meeting on April 22nd. And they'll also accept the proclamation for Small Business Week. So tonight, we'll start with 3 presentations from our partners, and then I'll go over the city efforts. So first up will be Eric Bruvold. He's with the San Diego North EDC. Then Kate Kelly with San Diego Connect. And then Khalida Atta from San Diego Workforce Partnership. Eric?
Great, perfect. Mayor Franklin, council members, it's good to see friends here. And so I'm going to try, and I know I've got 10 minutes, so I'm going to hopefully be less than that so we can all get to dinner and where we need to be tonight. So again, one of the things that we've really stressed with the organization since I came on board about 6-7 years ago is to focus on core issues of economic development, really define our mission around that. So like most economic development organizations, we market the region for outward investment, talk about why North County's a great place to grow and invest in our community, retain existing employment. 90% of job growth in any region comes from existing businesses as they move through the early phases of their growth cycle, and then connect employers and educators to strengthen our workforce pipeline. It really is, entrepreneurial profits and successes are great. We celebrate them and so forth, but the measure of any EDO really needs to be about employment and growing that so it increases wages and rises prosperity in a region. A little bit about us. We were founded in 2002. We're C6. We have 3 staff members, and we're one of 3 sub-regional EDCs for economic development organizations in the county. Revenue of just over $600,000, and that's gone on a combined annual growth rate since 2009 when I came on board, or 2019, right, since I came on board, I get my years confused, of 11.6%. We're pretty proud of that. We've got 90 investors, including 7 North County cities, and you see the way that our gross revenue breaks down across our different categories. So what I want to talk about is those areas of focus, market, retain, and connect in the perspective of what we're doing to serve Vista businesses. You make an investment in us, so we think it's important for us to tell you how that resources are being used. Since June, since the start of your fiscal year, we've worked with 5 Vista companies, employing a combined 9,800 workers to solve specific issues, whether that is informing them of incentives that are available to them, working on tariffs, more today, economic data, workforce data support for them, and then also with work for them to market for inward investment directly at their existing companies. We launched a Why North County marketing campaign, first one that I know of in the organization's history, where we spent some of our resources to do targeted social media ads in LA, Orange County, and Empire, targeting business owners and focusing on why North County makes sense. And we've expanded our social media marketing efforts outside of North County. This is an example of the Why North County landing page where people can learn more and leads can be shared with our economic development partners at the various cities that are investing. Our newsletter is kind of grown to now over 3,600 individuals that receive that on a weekly basis, and looking since January 1st of 2024, we've focused a minimum of 22 distinct Vista businesses have been featured in the newsletter and 19 Vista events promoted. The City of Vista, Vista Chamber of Commerce, and Vista businesses on our social media channels, we saw a minimum of 132 posts since that date across 3 platforms and a combined 23,000 views and impressions of activity that's going on in your cities and successes of Vista businesses. This is an example. So we promoted, I know that everybody's been excited about the promotion of a new Trader Joe's, and then again, sort of some of the stuff that we've done in terms of event promotion on our newsletter. We've held 2 major events, one that's in Vista, and we initiated a KUSI series that we're really happy about, giving a monthly opportunity to talk about North County businesses. And we've launched an economic development subcommittee, which is using some of our volunteers to be able to do outreach to businesses 10 to 50. We piloted in San Marcos to work out the kinks, so they're finding out what worked, what didn't work, and we'll definitely be going to Larry to talk to him about his interest in deploying that in Vista to expand and increase the outreach efforts to existing employers. That shows one of our chairman dinners. Mayor Franklin was there talking to our group at Shadow Ridge, and somewhere I think I've got a mayor's thing too. We've also launched a downtown guide. We've done 3 of them now. This is focused to promote some of the really unique downtowns and small businesses that we have. 30 Vista attractions, 19 restaurants, and 3 Vista hotels are focused in that. You can see the URL that we specifically set up for those downtown guides. And again, we facilitated these KUSIs. That's an example of the Vista Village Guide that we launched this year. And that's to help really promote the idea that we have vibrant quality of life in North County. And that is important for the attraction and retention of talent, which in turn helps us really get the kind of high value employers that help drive prosperity. And that's the interview the mayor did in Vista. On the workforce development side, our signature product is an entity or an effort called SoCal, Student Opportunities for Career Awareness and Learning. This is to provide an asynchronous learning tool so that students can look about different occupations that they might be interested in. We currently have 156 different occupations featured, and that includes 9 Vista companies, multiple videos from each of those, and we promoted it at career fairs at Vista high schools to drive awareness of that tool. One of the things we know is that students really don't know what they want to do when they grow up, so this is an opportunity to provide an expansive view so they can explore that. We've also got a couple of other programs that we've done. We worked with Cal State San Marcos to lower the price for summer interns that are coming from all over the county to work at North County companies during the summer. That supported interns that worked in the summer of 2024 at Watkins Wellness and Dr. Bronner. We're expecting to expand that program and continue it in 2025 so that we can get talent from all over the world that can come to North County, see opportunities, and be excited about locating here. And then I'm really excited about this. I have a high school senior, so she's going to be right there with me. We're doing a first-time hiring fair, and that really is designed around to deal with a real problem, which is youth unemployment is really, really pronounced. It's a lot harder for young adults to get that first job, and so we're bringing in and working with our partners to bring in about 10 or 12 employers that hire folks with those sorts of profiles and promoting it from high schools and community colleges throughout the corridor to bring them together on April 22nd and hopefully get some people some of their first-time job experience. This shows you, we did with that summer internship program, we brought people together to hear from some folks that are really experienced in workforce development and resume building, networking, and how to build your career. And then again, this is our promotion for our first-time hiring event. We also do some research. We provide a quarterly report to Larry on job postings from Vista employers. That gives us an idea of who's hiring, who's decreasing their hiring activity. That's a subscription which costs us about $15,000 and which we provide as part of the investment return to the city of Vista. So if you had to get it out on your own, that would be what you would pay, and we think that that's of value. We include a one-page fact sheet about Vista in all our external communication to potential folks thinking about investing in North County. And something which we did, and we need to update this, so we have a small business resource guide. We provide it both in English and in Spanish, and we mail that out to 80% of the new businesses that are registered with business licenses at Vista. We don't send it to realtors and kind of folks that are more kind of one-off, independent kind of contractors, but if they look like that they have a real business that employs people that could benefit from the Small Business Resource Guide, we send them an email with a link to that every month. That then gives you, that gives you the dashboard that we send out to everybody about what's going on in Vista, and again, the quarterly job report data that we provide to Larry on who's hiring. Again, the small business. And then finally, one of the things that we did is, along with Councilmember Fox, we took a trip with Larry and Jeff to Austin, Texas, and Round Rock, Texas, to find out some of the things that they're doing in economic development, get inspired, and deepen ties throughout North County. We had a great group of elected officials and economic development folks and private sector folks from North County. We're expecting to do that again next year. We're interested in city ideas that people might have, and we think it was a great way to deepen North County ties. So that's it for me. I'd be happy to answer any questions, but I think I took less than 10 minutes. So Larry gives me the good thumbs up, and I know that that was quick. But we're excited about the investment that you guys make in us, and we really are committed to try and provide return on investment and return on value for the investments you're making in my organization.
Thank you very much. A great presentation.
Thank you.
Appreciate your good work. Councilmember Contreras.
Is it okay if we ask questions?
Absolutely.
Or should we do it? Okay. Thank you so much, Eric. I really appreciate all the work that you do for us, not just here in Vista, but in North County. Just a quick question. You know, you really hit on something that I've been hammering away here at Vista about as well, which is youth and young adult unemployment. And I know I have Mike, Sylvia here trying to find our underemployment numbers for youth. But is that information that you have available?
Yeah, we can provide that to you. We look at the census data. If I remember correctly, the lowest aggregation that they provide on that is countywide level. We can extrapolate though, and I'll do some fancy math, and people look at me crazy, but to kind of get an estimate for Vista. But it's a real problem. I mean, there are lots of reasons why. I mean, there is the reason, and let me, and I won't get into the public policy wonkery, one of the things that we really have tried to market, and Toledo also talked to this because they're a partner with us in this, is we really said we wanted employers there to not use screening tools, to actually take like applications and see people. We know that one of the challenges that youth have right now is that they're directed into these online portals, fill out something, and they're immediately rejected because they have no work experience. So we're trying it this year. I'm a big believer that we never get things right the first time, so we'll sort of see how we do this year, but we're definitely going to bring it back next year and do it bigger and better. And we're also talking to Project Next about kind of marrying that up to have a second event, maybe a month later, for actual high school graduates, maybe community college graduates, who really need their first job that's moving toward a career. This April 22nd event, you know, we're gonna have Kroger's and hopefully some fast food folks and other things. It's really so kids can have on their resume that they showed up on time for a job for 6 or 7, weeks, and that they can start to show those work skills. So I'm really passionate about that. I'm passionate about it as a dad too, but it's something that we really need to do more of. Vista Chamber does a great job with its internship program, and I think the more that we can make those investments, the better.
Yeah, I really appreciate you digging into this issue because, we have a relatively young city, and the folks that I get to communicate with in my district and throughout the city of Vista, most of these youth and young adults are not born into a family that have a network where their parents have these different types of careers and their friends, the parents' friends have different type, right, that are going to be career paths. And so it's so challenging to even understand which direction to go. And by the time you do, you might be really behind.
And I think that's where our SoCal program really works together. We've made an investment out of council funds this year to hire a part-time project manager to push it more into CTE classrooms and other things. We really hope to bring back kind of a full-on marketing strategy. How do we really leverage that for 2026? But I couldn't agree more. It's awareness about careers. It's building some job skills and some resume building that's involved there. And then I think it is connecting youth to employers who are looking for folks, but in a way that meets students where they are, makes it easily and seamless. I'm excited that both Legoland and the Wild Animal Park are going to be there. They hire youth like that, and that this is a way to bring them at least to San Marcos Civic Center so that students here in Vista can get on the Sprinter, go 3 exits or 3 or 4 stations down the road, hop right off and be there for the interviews.
Well, please let us know how we can be an even better partner. And, when you're thinking about this in the future, I've always envisioned our downtown having some kind of career fair with our businesses from the business park, from all over, right? And we have the AVO that we could potentially open up and show these different things. So please, I would love to work with you on that offline.
It's a perfect example what we're going to do in April of lessons learned that we then can come back to a city of Vista and we say, okay, here's what worked well, here's what didn't work well, here's where we can further improve it. I love the idea of doing something with the water park, the movie theater, the entire Vista downtown. And you're right, bring it to the, sort of like figure that out, or here at Civic Center at the Room, and then really leverage it forward.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate everything that you do. And
thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Councilmember O'Donnell.
I'll echo that. Thank you for this presentation. Great work. Everybody is excited about Trader Joe's, I can tell you, and thank you for the work on that and bringing it to Vista. I know that there's another large retail company coming in. Can't talk about it yet, but I appreciate the work with that. What I've seen is growth in that area, but what I'm also seeing is a lot of storefronts getting shut down in small strip malls. Specifically over in my neck of the woods by RBV, a lot of those are becoming empty. Sushi on the Edge just left, and there were some reasons for that, but I know rent is getting exorbitantly high for small businesses trying to open up and start. Is there anything we're doing to try and target those businesses or try and target individuals that would be willing to open in that area? Is there any relief we're providing? Are there any programs?
So I think this. So Larry's going to speak specifically about some of the things like the storefront improvement project and other things and activities that Vista can have. But I would say a regional effort that would be good, and it's not a magic bullet, right? But to the extent to which that you know business owners that need sort of help and support, and especially kind of this, and we don't have a lot of money to give away in California, but I'd really make a plug for our Small Business Development Center and really efforts to bring in cost-free a business advisor to look under the hood, really trying to figure out whether that there's cost savings. They can advise them. And then, Dan, the other thing, or Councilmember O'Donnell, excuse me, is that one of the things that we can do, which I think really for small business owners, I've got a network of brokers who essentially, they're going to get paid, but kind of it's a pro bono effort of working with small business owners that might not be sophisticated about real estate to help them really sort of understand that process, to at least get the most affordable lease and do the most affordable site search that they can so that they can stay in business. So if you have business owners that are like that, if Larry has them, send them our way. And I think that's actually, I can talk. That's a great example where public-private works really well. It's hard and probably a little bit for a public sector entity to go ahead and recommend a private sector business directly, right? I mean, lots of good reasons why we wouldn't want to do that. But if they come to me as a public-private partnership, I'm perfectly fine to do that. I can assure you it's not just SD and EC members. We wanted to find the best retail people that are there, and we can make that available to them so that they're not into it blind and just kind of working on, with their cousin who, sells a house once and then.
Right. No, and I appreciate that because like the largest concern that I've gotten from business owners is that when their contract is up on their lease, the rates just get jacked up, and then they can't afford it because it doesn't pencil out for them because the cost of doing business doesn't fit with the new rent.
And I think that's where providing them expert real estate advice from a broker that represents them can at least help them negotiate from a greater position of strength.
Awesome. I also want to say thank you for the job fair you're going to do. I'm old enough to remember that you had to walk into businesses to get a paper application. In fact, my first 2 jobs were paper applications. And online has diluted a lot of it, but I do have a lot of students that ask about internships and job opportunities and a lot of things because they do want to work. They want to be a part of it. They want to get experience so that when they go to college or whatever it is they're going to do, they have some work experience to go with it. So I think it's an excellent plan to couple with Councilmember Contreras. If there's anything we can do as a city or even as council members to work with you on that, just to get the word out, please let us know. I am happy to work with you on that and get as many students there as
Follow
we
up
can.
and we'll get a bunch of kids there.
Yeah.
That'd be good.
This will probably be more of a question for Larry when the time comes, but as we all saw today, some tariffs kicked in and had some huge impacts on a lot of industries, and I'm just curious how that's going to impact our business park. Industries in there.
So I guess I'll answer that in 2 ways. One, I think as an economic developer, I'm worried. San Diego has benefited. The companies that drive prosperity in our region, we call it, we have like fancy words and, whatever, but essentially they are companies that do something in San Diego or provide a service, make a service or an intellectual property in San Diego and then sell globally. And the reason that benefits, it brings new dollars into our region that drive prosperity forward. Then there's a whole bunch of other businesses that kind of serve the local community, and we love them. They're really good. They add community character, but let's be honest, when, when one knitting shop shows, my wife loves a knitting shop here in Vista, but when one knitting shop shuts down, that demand is going to be satisfied somewhere else in the region by another knitting shop, right? So the concern really with the tariffs is that those companies that are bringing new dollars into our region are now going to face a higher competitive burden. And it's not a North County company, so I think I'm good and I'm not violating any things. I'm deeply worried about Qualcomm, very worried about Qualcomm, because they sell their chipsets into manufacturers largely in Asia. And if we see iPhones go from $1,000 to $2,000 or $1,500, those will just be less chipsets that Qualcomm sells in, and probably a decrease in employment. There are and I don't want to get political. I think there's an argument, which was made yesterday, that those jobs can eventually come back on shore. But if we look at what's gone on in Taiwan and South Korea, it takes at least a decade to build that capacity. And that has to be the concern, that the tariffs won't immediately change that overnight.
Yeah, I will just, in my own background outside of this council, I worked for a company that we had to shut down an entire plant. And when that supply chain was interrupted, we are now 8 months later, and we are still not back to where we need to be from a production standpoint. We need to build another plant. We need to get another whole new set of workers. We need to train them, do all those things. And that doesn't happen overnight, to your point. It's going to take a long time to recover from that. So, but I appreciate all the insight on that. Those are all my questions for now, and thank you again for this presentation.
Councilmember Fox.
How's it going? Long time no see. Yeah, I was like, we
I
just
recovered. It took a while.
I know it did. So, as Eric mentioned, we just came back from that trip to Austin, Round Rocks in particular. Was it a couple weeks ago?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, and I would say that anyone who has the opportunity, next time that they do that, it was a great experience. And so, if you have the opportunity to go, I would. It was definitely worth the time.
Thank
So, you know, I think that one thing that we talked a lot about on the trip was things that we can do a lot better regionally rather than locally, a lot more about collaboration rather than competition. You know, we don't have to try to target the same kind of businesses as Carlsbad. We don't have to necessarily try to be, you know, like someone else. You know, what kind of programs do we as a city actually do to speak with some of these other surrounding jurisdictions?
Well, and you know, I'll let Larry speak to how. Well, actually, I can speak a little bit. Mayor Franklin can talk about how it's going on the political level. I think something that the city of Vista should be exceedingly proud about is Innovate 78. And Innovate 78, in my mind, has really done two really critical things, Councilmember Fox. One, it got the economic developers and their economic development organization really all talking together and thinking about ways that we could collaborate. I always kind of call it sometimes, you know, a coalition of the willing. So I'm not going to try and get all five, you know, that's like a lot of kittens to herd, make sure they get there. But if we can come up together with something that 3 or 4 of the cities work on, that's great. And then I think the other thing, and again, I mean, this goes back to Mayor Ritter. At that point, you know, how soon we can get Mayor Desmond, who, I mean, it used to be the case that North County cities did some really crazy things. They would poach other companies from one another. They would close down streets and like make people's commutes miserable. And I think one of the really great things that's occurred is that the cities now talk to each other and work forward. I think you're right. One of the things we learned on Round Rock is I think that there are additional strategic opportunities, maybe even outside of the immediate bailiwick of economic development, where there could be, you know, up to and including joint powers authorities, where you really think about leveraging these assets in a way to, let's be honest, drive additional prosperity, but also just create cost savings, you know, where cities could look together and say, look, if we can get work, do we really need 2 of these as opposed to 1? And so I think that there are really good things that we learned there and that makes sense. So again, kudos, and Larry's been right at the forefront of that. Kudos on the Innovate 78 effort. It really has, I think, changed the dynamic from where we were 15 years ago, and I think it's really all to the better.
Well, and thank you for everything you do. I think it's really important with the regional approach to things like marketing, you know, for new businesses to come in. I know it's hard as a city to necessarily do that individually, especially with a team of 2. So having like a more regional approach when it comes to the marketing, maybe some of the workforce development, some of that kind of things. That you guys are
one of the things I
working on.
really focus on is I try and say, how can we do stuff that we've got great chambers, we've got great economic developers, how can we do things that synergize across the whole corridor? And we do love Encinitas and Poway, so we give them some love too, but, you know.
Even if they don't come on the trip to Austin with us.
I know.
All right. Well, that's all I had for you. I thank you so much for being here, and thank you so much for taking me to Round Rock. That was great.
Deputy Mayor Melendez.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Eric, for your presentation. It's, you know, so good to see that, you know, with a small team, you're able to run a lot of successful programs. And, you know, when you say that you just want to be able to represent, you know, a good investment for the city, you're certainly doing that. Really appreciate the small business resource guide, and I agree with the SoCal student opportunities, right? It's critical for young people. And I'm also really excited, I'm checking it out right now, this North County downtowns, right? And all the different mappings. And, you know, not just a guide with descriptions, but actual mapping. I think that that's really exactly what we need to see. And, you know, a lot of great things that you guys are doing. I just had one question about this. How are you choosing some of these featured locations, and what rises to the top?
First of all, it was us, right? And we went out to we also went out to both Larry and your former economic development director and made sure that we got that. By the way, we're open for others, right? And so if council members have other businesses that they'd like to feature, please let us know. We think a feature that we've got there, which also more than welcome to chime in on, is insider tips. So if somebody's got a great beer or somebody's got a great sandwich that they've got in their shop or a particular roll, send it to us. That's where, and actually, that's where the guide has, that was my answer to my board member who said, why just not Yelp? You know, I mean, people have that. And I said, if we can create a curated list in a curated environment from people who know it, it's better than some randos who are putting in reviews on Yelp.
Right, I totally see the vision, and I would probably have some recommendations. Not that this list isn't great, but the way that you can use a guide like this to showcase this is what the neighborhood is like, right? And this is the lifestyle here.
I love that.
Yeah, so I, having been born and raised in Vista, and just really love, being a local consumer here myself.
So we'll chat, and I'd love to add to that guide to really help, again, focus in on some of those things.
You're really clustering some, it's not just downtown. You're clustering some awesome neighborhoods here, and I just want to highlight that and, contribute to that any way that we can. So really
Here's what we
appreciate
tell
that.
people, Larry's like giving me the hook, but one of the key competitive strengths of North County compared to other places is that we have community character in our local neighborhoods, whether those are downtowns or other parts of the neighborhoods in our community cities. I used to work for the regional, but you go to Sereno Mesa, and there's no character there. It's just, a big suburban office park with, really bad traffic. And I think that and why that matters, it matters for small business and for retail and for cities, but it also matters when a Watkins Wellness or Dr. Bronner's or Solitude is going out to recruit somebody, and they say, oh, sure, you could work in some big, nameless business park in San Jose or someplace else. But if you come to Vista, you're a half block away or a mile away for these kinds of community characters. And that's a really valuable sell to employees, and it really leverages a core competitive strength.
Yeah, exactly. I really appreciate that the community feel comes out in these maps too. So great presentation. Thank you for being here and for answering all of our questions. Good discussion.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor. Great.
Good to see a lot of new faces. I'm excited to be here with you all and represent Connect and Innovate 78, which is powered by Connect. Is there a way to... Thanks. So I'm going to start with a 30,000-foot view. Connect is a 40-year-old organization that's focused on catalyzing specifically the life science and technology sectors throughout their entire growth journey across the entire region. We do that through a series of curated programs and events because we believe our economic future depends on the continuous cultivation of a strong innovation ecosystem. With our 40 years of experience, we have an unrivaled network, and we're uniquely positioned to connect businesses with capital, education, and advisors that they need to succeed. We think that by relentlessly fueling a diverse and innovative engine, we can help ensure that current and future generations will live, grow, and thrive here in San Diego. So we are a 501c3 nonprofit, which helps keep us neutral in the market. So we're constantly bubbling up investors, matching them with our companies here. Investors trust us because we aren't bubbling up our deals. We're just trying to get the best companies in front of those investors to keep our companies here in San Diego and attract those dollars here that create high-quality jobs. So some of the numbers speak for themselves. Over the last 10 years, Connect really launched a program in 2015 to bring investors directly here. We had kind of a brain drain problem with talent, students leaving to go to San Francisco. And so we launched a couple of different initiatives that got companies to San Francisco but kept them here in San Diego, as well as created events where investors could come here and meet directly with our entrepreneurs. Over the last 4 years, about $23 billion of investment has flowed to San Diego, due in part to some of those initiatives and our amazing ecosystem here. And part of what's really impressive about that is that there's no real resident capital here in San Diego. So we think that we're driving investor confidence in our region, again, bringing that capital here to create good jobs and retain our talent here. So some of our impact numbers, again, overall, we serve over 300 tech and life science companies per year. And this past year, we joined up with Innovate 78 specifically to amplify all the work that Innovate 78 has already been doing, make sure that our companies in North County have access to the resources that Connect was providing. About $2.2 billion of funding from last year came directly to companies that went through our programs, 25% of which were based in North County. And we focus on making sure our resources are spread across all entrepreneurs who have a diverse set of backgrounds. So we're proud to share that 53% of the companies we work with have executive leadership that is diverse and includes women-owned founders. Why all of these numbers matter, as you probably already know, one new innovation job creates almost 3 other jobs. So our innovation jobs support, I think it's 2.7 other jobs across small businesses that really make our ecosystem whole. And then over to the right, you can see just kind of the breakdown of where that capital flowed to. Kind of exciting, one of the largest deals of last year went to a consumer company based in North County. We see a lot of funding to life sciences, so it's fun to see the differentiation last year. We do all of this with a team of 8, and we run a series of programs and events in conjunction with our strategically large group of sponsors and partnerships, like Innovate 78. A couple on the right, you'll see, or on the left, sorry, you'll see capital development programs, Cool Companies, Venture Summit, Springboard, and SIBR. All of these are supported with our partnership at Innovate 78 and have brought funding directly to companies throughout the region. On the right, you'll see additional educational programs, talent development initiatives, and large group gatherings where we really try to bring the whole region together. Some of these programs have brought in over $900 million in funding directly to these companies, which we then see go on to create lots of jobs, high-quality jobs. So to drill down to the city of Vista, I wanted to present a case study that you all might know well, which is Cubatech, founded here in 2012. They're an innovation leader in developing quantum technologies using entangled photons, and they went through 3 or 4 of Connect programs. So they received advisor support, investor introductions, and national exposure through our programs, MIP, Springboard, Cool Companies, and Venture Summit, which all have been supported by you all and Innovate 78. These programs helped lead to Cubitech's expansion and eventual acquisition, which happened at the end of last year, bringing in about $22 million. With the venture funding that they received, they doubled their headcount from 13 to 25 in just 6 years, and helped attract attention from major industry players and talent, which enhances Vista's economy and help put the city on the map as a technological innovation hub. Here is a list of companies that we were able to enhance and support through our partnership. It's a pretty wide variety across tech, consumer, life sciences, aerospace, defense, construction, healthcare, co-working, and med device, which really shows to the breadth and depth that you have here in the city. And some of the emerging trends in the key innovation sectors we're seeing here. Again, we're seeing a wide range of high-growth companies that are starting here and expanding across quantum computing, AI, and sustainable food technologies. Cubitech, which I mentioned, Magier AI, and Flow Circuits, which is now HVACR, were recently invested in by Techstars and are creating jobs here in Vista. And then Pacha is another high success, high growth company. Should be on everybody's radar. Investment opportunities and future growth. We see the infrastructure you're all building here. We recently hosted an AI panel at the Vista Film Hub, brought out several panelists to meet entrepreneurs and again to just build community throughout events. We're also focused on talent development and retention initiatives, where the City of Vista can leverage sending like mid-level managers to, again, build their peer groups and network with one another. And then the easiest call to action is joining us for our next event, which is our annual summer social on June 3rd. We will bring out roughly 30 companies that 5% will potentially be from Vista and North County. So it's a mix and mingle situation, 600 to 800 people gathering to learn about the community and talk about innovation. And this is only possible through our partnership with Innovate 78 and the City of Vista, helping us drive innovation and growth across the vibrant academic ecosystem along the 78 corridor.
Thank you very much. That was a great presentation. Councilmember Contreras?
Yeah, thank you. Really appreciate it. And you know, this is actually the first time that I hear about some of this stuff. So thank you so much for coming. I'm curious, with some of these emerging technologies or newer technologies, as businesses are looking to get a footing somewhere, right? And we're just talking about workforce and whatnot. I'm just curious, do you hear anything about some of the concerns that they have, that businesses have setting up here in North County? I mean, when we look at housing costs and whatnot, and to be able to have the workforce, can you kind of talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, we certainly hear about housing concerns, cost of opening businesses. A lot of businesses are starting out virtually, so some mitigation there. I think from the city's perspective, they're always trying to find out how they can get permits, and that's something that the partnership has helped drive, just unlocking access that entrepreneurs don't always know where to go and who to talk to. So they have representation across the 5 cities up here that they can get to easily and kind of answer those questions, I think is a good resource. On the startup side of things, there's funding gaps that are happening currently. We're seeing, our life science companies not necessarily get their grants that they had been promised at the end of last year. So I think there's going to be more concerns that continue to arise, but we're hoping we can amplify the presence of each of the cities we're working with to make sure they know who to go to and talk to about their concerns.
That's, yeah, I know that we just have so much research here in San Diego County, right? And so some of the funding that's usually granted, right, for expanding research and development just isn't available. So that's why I just want to make sure we don't lose our edge. So I'm just always curious to see, like, what the city can do to better, have a better business environment. But some of it's kind of outside of our scope, right? Especially when we're looking at some of the more like biotech hubs and whatnot. Yeah, it's just, thank you so much for what you're doing, and it looks like there's a lot of successes that have come out of this program. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Councilmember Fox.
Yeah, thank you very much for the presentation. I actually work out of the Film Hub, so I was a little bit bummed that I didn't attend that. It would have been a really cool thing for me to see, firsthand kind of what you guys do. So I will try to make it to the summer social because I am very curious about, like how that we can interface more, how we can, rely on you guys a little bit more for what you do. Do you have any recommendations on how Vista could, support our up and coming entrepreneurs, help, grow local businesses? I know you said the innovation type companies, for every one job you create, it'll create 3 more because, I think it was Eric who said 90% of new jobs come from local existing businesses expanding rather than attracting new businesses. So the idea of bringing in, starting with our local talent and growing those new businesses that can then expand and hire a lot more of our local talent. Do you have any recommendations for that?
Yeah, I think expanding kind of on some of the things you're already doing with expanding the infrastructure in the co-working spaces, providing those opportunities for the innovators who are maybe building in their garage that we don't know about to come out and form that community and build their company more openly in public is kind of, a start with the Film Hub and an opportunity to expand. And I think as, AI advances, it's really important to have the infrastructure to support those advancements with, 5G optics and all the infrastructure that those companies need. So making sure the city's on top of those things probably helpful.
Awesome. And I know that like technology is probably one of the big ones, of course, when it comes to innovative jobs. Are there any other sectors that you see Vista pointing at, and focusing on a little bit more, where maybe, like I was saying earlier, that collaborating with our local cities and not necessarily targeting the same jobs as everyone else? Are there any kind of sectors that you would think that we could potentially focus on?
Yeah, if I could go back to the list of companies that we've supported, there's a couple of trends in there that aren't, life sciences and tech are kind of known throughout the region. I would say med device specifically is not as popular in San Diego, but having a startup here or two that is kind of starting in that space might be interesting to reach out to them and see what's needed, or we can do some of that research as well and share those opportunities.
Beautiful. Well, again, thank you again for the presentation, but I hope to connect at some point and, maybe pick your brain on some more things, afterwards. So.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll do another event at the Film Hub in the future and let you know about it.
All right, we look forward to that. I just clicked your QR code and added the event for June 3rd to my calendar, so I look forward to being there. And we'll make sure and get the word out as a city, try and make sure we have a big turnout. Thank you for your good work.
Thank you so much.
All right. Hi there.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I'm Khalida Atta, joining from San Diego Workforce Partnership, COO. It's a pleasure to be here with you all today. Wait for the PowerPoint to build up. Okay. I'll just say, Larry, thank you for strategically organizing these presentations to build on one another. I think zooming out, I'm going to use Kate's analogy. So if you just were taken to 60,000 feet, I'll take you to 100,000 feet up. So I represent an organization that is federally mandated by the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, WIOA, that has been in existence about a decade. As an organization, we are 50 years old and celebrating our 30th year as San Diego Workforce Partnership. We've had other iterations of names prior to that, including Private Industry Council, for those of you who were there back then when we were literally growing up as a nascent organization. But fundamentally, our mission remains the same throughout our various iterations as an organization and how we've evolved, focusing on supporting job seekers to meet the current and future workforce demands of our region. As a JPA that Eric mentioned earlier, we are one. We're a joint powers authority that serve as the local workforce board for both the entirety of the county and the city of San Diego. I have a map that's going to go into a little bit of the geography, so I'll wait until the next slide. But again, our footprint is wide, and our results in turn, this is looking at last fiscal year. As of June 30th, our results encompass the entirety of the area of the region of San Diego. So 145,000 individuals that we've supported with our public engagement efforts, more than 5,000 individuals that were actively enrolled in either training or other employment-related services with our organization, more than $4 million invested in job readiness training programs, and more than 1,100 employers served across the area. At the outset, I mentioned about us being a JPA. We actually have a dual status as quasi-governmental and nonprofit. We have a 501c3 status as well. We're an organization of about 130 staff, and our operating budget's $43 million a year. We have 2 governing boards. We have a policy board that's comprised of County Board of Supervisors members as well as City Council members within the City of San Diego. And then we have a WIOA mandated board that is comprised of various categories in accordance with the law of representation in court, including labor, education sector, 51% private sector, and government. On the next slide, okay, geographically, I did a little bit of a walk of shame walking here because I say that we're woefully underrepresented in North County. I think we need to do a lot more. I'm a North County resident myself. I live in the intersection of Carlsbad, San Marcos, and Vista, in that little corner where all 3 cities meet. And I know how important it is, so much that I'm making a personal effort to move our office from where it's been for at least the last 7 years or so in Oceanside to San Marcos, where we're closer to Vista and closer to the inland area where the need, I find, is a little bit more there for the people and the populations that we are mandated to serve. But in general, you can see from the map, our footprint is more so concentrated in South and Central San Diego, as well as East County, with less presence in North County than I can see us growing over the next several years, especially with our site move upcoming. Who do we serve in terms of different populations? We serve the whole gamut, I would say, of different populations, from youth, adult, older adult. We have a 55 and up program that's dedicated to the older adult workforce. Various underrepresented and marginalized groups, including justice impacted, the unhoused population, those with mental and physical disabilities, immigrants, refugees, etc., as well as within the youth category, we serve in-school and out-of-school youth, including foster youth, other groups, other opportunity groups. Veterans certainly is actually our top priority of service are veterans, again, federally mandated. And we're constantly looking to see how we can improve how deep we penetrate these various underrepresented categories or categories of population most in need. Within the employer universe of who we work with, we have a range of services that we offer employers. Our strategic planning and economic development, I would say we try to work with our partners across the cities within the county not to duplicate efforts, but we do have services such as labor market data that we leverage, and we're supposed to, as an workforce board, provide such information to different jurisdictions locally. Workforce recruitment efforts through accessing untapped labor pools like the underrepresented populations that I mentioned. Rapid response and business assistance, employer information and resource network. We have layoff aversion activities. We are, as the federally mandated agency that receives WARN notices, we are mandated to provide specialized training to companies that are in process of doing mass layoffs. So our organization receives those notices and are supposed to deploy and respond to provide a presentation on how they can access our services. We also have incumbent worker training services where we upskill existing labor force of firms, as well as new hire training support. So in a nutshell, we support both job seekers and employers. We're a funder bringing funds from a wide range of resources. Because of our dual status, we leverage both federal, state, city, and private resources. We have the whole range represented in our budget. We support different communities, trying to meet them where they're at through our boards and committees and determine policy accordingly. With regards to VISTA, we do have Dr. Matt Doyle as our board member in our Workforce Development Board who represents VISTA Unified School District, and he's always an active and vocal advocate for this area in our board meetings. We also organize community partners to create impactful workforce development initiatives that are data-based, and we focus on designing our programs to increase opportunities for both job seekers and businesses. I'm going to skip through this. I think I mentioned that already. How we're expanding our efforts this particular year, we've had a few new grants passed down through the California Workforce Development Board, CWDB, including one close to $5 million for supporting reentry with the justice-impacted population. We work directly in 2 of the prison facilities across the county, and with, of course, the local jurisdictions that oversee the local prison distribution centers. We have an active initiative with the healthcare industry. I know Councilmember Fox, I think you were asking about the sectors that we work in. We try to align our sectors with the county's economic development strategy and the city's. So healthcare is a very large sector of interest for our region as a whole. ICT and manufacturing, advanced manufacturing is another one, bless you. Energy, construction, and utilities, and public administration. We have a heavy focus on fire and EMS, which was supported heavily several years ago through the efforts of Senator Mainshine, who supported this funding for our organization, and we're still working to basically spend down and let those resources reach the communities that are most interested in those career pathways. We've also expanded our apprenticeship readiness program within North County, serving residents aged 18 and older at no cost, working with various providers across the area, including Miracosta College, as one of those North County partners. And an example of how we've supported a large employer of our region as a whole is this new Gaylord Hotel, this new resort that's opening in South County, where they're hiring more than 800 staff. We've been a strong partner with them. A lot of the media outreach was done through our team, and we've helped them have really unprecedented levels of lines of people who showed up to those recruitment fairs. That was done in partnership with us. And like Eric mentioned, we are doing the April 22nd event here in North County in San Marcos, the Jobs First, or First Job Fair for the youth across the area. We're working with Project Next as well, as just some of the examples of our active engagement across the area. And with that, I will take questions.
Thank you. I'll start. I get the WARN notices, I think, as the statutory recipient. And as we've gone into our business park, and Larry's done a good job of setting up visits with some of our major employers. And I always like to know if they are familiar with how to employ people who've been laid off and who I'm getting these warn notices about. And there seems to be less awareness about that than I'd like to see, especially given the fact that they are potentially eligible for some incentives if they hire these employees. And I think there would be interest in hiring these folks if they knew about it. What can we do to make sure that our human resource directors throughout our business park and all throughout our city of Vista are familiar with the opportunity to hire people who have lost their jobs through no fault of their own and to potentially even receive incentives for hiring these individuals?
Okay, so on a practical level, I know Larry mentioned he's a two-person team. Our business and community relations team is about a five-person team for the entirety of the county. So it's very difficult for them to be present everywhere and respond to the level that they should be with every warn notice. And sadly, they're becoming more and more frequent, especially in the state of affairs today. But nonetheless, I do think we could be doing more with just leveraging newsletters and email format communication around our services to your point, Mayor, to reach the HR directors. I will say that when we receive warn notice, again, our team puts in their effort to immediately reach out and offer our services. The uptake is not always there from firms because, frankly, they're dealing with their own matter, which is very real for them and time-consuming, et cetera. They don't always take us up on our offer to have our staff come in and do these presentations. So it's a two-way street. There has to be willingness, but again, there's other efforts we can do to just leverage the information digitally so that we're not waiting for an in-person presentation with limited human resources.
Understand, thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Councilmember Contreras.
Thank you so much for your presentation, and this is a lot of work throughout the San Diego region, and of course, we'd love to hear your thoughts about needing to grow that here in North County. I mean, we just have such a diverse region, right? Really going out from like the sands of Oceanside to the sands of Borrego, and there's a lot of different barriers and issues depending on where we're looking at in North County. But I wanted to ask, because you indicated some of the populations that you're working with. And we have the county jail here in Vista. So just curious, what is it, can you give us like a rundown of what services or programs are happening at the county jail or, anything like that?
So our presence isn't in North County yet with the Reentry Works program. It's concentrated in Las Colinas and the female facility. I believe it's in South County, if I'm not mistaken.
Santee.
Santee? Okay, it's East County. But with that said, I think there's a huge effort to expand. I mentioned that $5 million new grant. That's exactly intended to expand our efforts across the entirety of the county. So I think there's a lot more coming with our expansion of our work, but thus far it's been very concentrated in the map, as I showed, where we've been traditionally focusing on.
Yeah, so, I would just put a plug in for this facility, and I would love to see what a partnership would look like between the city, between your organization, between the county, right? Because it's definitely has an impact on our community. And whatever we can do to ensure that folks are able to re-enter the workforce, right, after having that type of experience of being incarcerated, especially with all the barriers once you are incarcerated, right, and the retraining or sometimes even obtaining your GED, right? I would love to see what that looks like because I do think that would be a huge benefit not only to the city of Vista, but to our entire North County region. So whatever it is that we can do, this is something that we can talk offline about, but consider me a partner in that. I definitely want to expand your programming to cover the county jail here in Vista. Thank you.
I appreciate that. Thank you. And you asked what kind of services. It's our standard suite of services we try to bring to the facility, since the facility can't come to us.
Right.
So it's workforce readiness, trainings, resume, advisory support, it's interview skills, it's supportive services to help them literally on, as I've been told the stories of being let out in the middle of the night with nowhere to go, no resources. We literally will work with our community partners to provide a backpack of like the basics, fundamentals that they need to get back on their feet, including housing, temporary assistance. So it's the whole gamut, and we have success stories of individuals that have gone through our services and have come out with like a certification in AI, and they're making six-figure salaries.
I mean, that's so impactful. You know, we know the data around some of the calls for service that we have are extremely high around the county jail, and some of it is that mixture of folks that are let out and they have no idea what their next step is. And so the more that we can prepare that, I'm sure we would see a cost savings. The city of Vista, our fire department on their own did a ton of research. They showed us that that's one of the highest areas of calls for service, right? And so, I know that there's a way to save money for the city, make it a safer area for folks that live around the county jail, and to also ensure that folks that are exiting incarceration have resources and the ability to move forward so they can be productive and a part of our tax base, right? And I know that will result in a savings for everybody, City of Vista, for the taxpayers at large. And it would take, some investment, but the return is beyond what we would put in as an investment. So I would love to continue to have this conversation. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Sure. My pleasure, Mayor.
Great, thank you, Mayor. As you can see, our breadth is, and our depth of knowledge is pretty intense. We leverage these resources that we have with these partner organizations to make a real impact in Vista and across the region. And there are just so many opportunities and resources out there. And one of the struggles that we have is how do we get it in the hands of our businesses? And so that's kind of what we want to talk about tonight. And as we dig into the VEDs, how we can do a better job of making sure that our businesses are getting their fair share of these resources. So I know that in the past, you all have liked to kind of start with an overall snapshot of what's happening in Vista. And so kind of looking at the employment, this is a comparison of March across the years. I always like to use 2019 as kind of like the base. So that was pre-pandemic, and you wonder, where are we compared to that? And this is just a snapshot of 3 different years, but you can see we were humming along at 3.6%, which is near full employment in 2019. In March of 2020, so it did take into 2 weeks of the pandemic, essentially, 10%. I think as our unemployment rate got as high as about 17%. And currently we're at 4.2% unemployment rate. I always like to look, so unemployment rate can be misleading because a lot of people can drop out of the workforce and then all of a sudden your unemployment rate goes down. Because it only counts people who are actively looking for work. So I always like to use the measure of how many jobs are in Vista in our economy. And you see pre-COVID, about 43,500. That dropped, of course, during COVID with the government forced shutdowns. And today we stand nearly 50,000. So it's
Larry,
been
do we get these numbers from EDD?
these are straight from the Census Bureau. Got them right off the Census Bureau.
Does the state EDD have numbers for Vista?
Yes.
I'd be interested to see what their number, because
That's
they're the ones I send my payroll taxes to, so they ought to know exactly how many people are here.
yeah. That's where this data came from.
Oh, okay.
They provide spreadsheets on a monthly basis. So it's been a pleasure to help our businesses create more than 6,000 jobs than we had in 2019, and that's a 14% increase. Council members have also asked about the business park, and historically, what's a 6% or 4% vacancy rate look like? And so I reached out to JLL. They're a big industrial broker in our business park. They provided this snapshot of over the last 10 years. This is through March of 2024, so it's very fresh. This 8.8% vacancy rate currently in the industrial park is mainly due to, we've had two big, large move-outs, Q Health and JELD-WEN. And so what does that translate to, and how does that compare across the county?
Did you say with us JELD-WEN and which other one? Which was the other one?
Q Health.
Q Health. How many jobs was that?
I think the Q Health was 125 jobs or
I
something.
think JELD-WEN was like 130 or something like that too, wasn't it?
Yes, sir.
Mayor, real quick. I have no comments yet. I know there's a couple students here, and it is past the hour, so if you'd like to leave and get your signature, you may.
Very good.
So this slide shows, now this is based upon the end of December 2024. So again, the vacancy rates have changed, but I couldn't find comparative data this quickly since March just ended. So one of the benefits, I'd say the two greatest benefits that Vista has going for it in terms of industrial growth and the opportunity to attract good jobs to Vista is the fact that we have almost 13 million square feet of industrial. And you can see how that compares to other cities in the county. There's only one area with more industrial space than Vista. And so this is a great opportunity. Of course, the other great asset we have is our staff and the fact that they are very business forward in their approach, that they're problem solvers, that they get to yes. And we have, the way we're going to fill this business park again to the 2 or 3% vacancy rate is because of our reputation across the county and the region as being the place that is pro-business and likes to solve problems and can get you through an entitlement process quickly or not require an entitlement process. We're very commonsensical when it comes to that approach, and our planners and our building department work really hard to really concierge these businesses to get from permit to opening.
Larry, would you say the 6.4 number is?
It's now 8.8.
This is
Current March.
Well, 8.8 was a year ago, and are you saying 6.4 is your best guess where it's at now?
No, 8.8, this slide here.
It's March 2024.
I'm sorry, it's March 2025.
Oh, okay, I
Sorry.
see.
Yeah. And then this was December 2024.
I see.
So the other way,
Larry, what are the businesses that left and vacated that real estate?
it's a combination. Like currently we have Well, the two that went from 6.6 to 8% was the Q Health and the Jeld Wen, officially moving out and putting those properties on the submarket for lease.
So maybe just a couple of large facilities at 100,000 square feet apiece have got this number up.
That's correct. In fact, when maybe 2 years ago, I had maybe been here a year, the largest space we had available was like 20 or 30,000 square feet in our business park. We probably have 7 or 8 above 100,000 square feet right now. So it is those companies that are consolidating operations and vacating those large spaces that are now available, which is a great opportunity for us. So again, I'm not too concerned at this 8.8%.
Does this number factor in the 81,000 square feet that ALE, American Lithium Energy, just leased in the business park?
I think it would include that because that lease was signed prior to.
Who was in that facility before they were there? You remember?
I don't remember.
Was that Advanced Web Offset? I think that might have been our web printer.
So one of the ways, of course, we tell others about Vista and how we attract new employers is through our marketing and public relations program. We have a vistamade.com website that has basically testimonials from and success stories from our local businesses. And I'm a firm believer that success breeds success, and people want to be a part of something that's exciting and something that's successful. And so we do little small videos highlighting these companies, their story, telling their story, how they came about Vista, what it was like to go through our permitting process, what's it like to do business in Vista. And you know, I can say it till I'm blue or red in the face, I guess, with businesses like, you need to come to Vista. But them hearing it from other entrepreneurs, that tells a story that sells Vista better than anything. So we've got our business-friendly attitude of staff, our quality talent living in Vista, our lower costs, and we've got the perfect location.
Talking about that vacancy in the business park, are there any cities that offer like a rebate on sales tax? What if we were to incentivize companies to move into our large facilities, particularly those that had a sales tax base in their business, and we were to offer them an incentive like 100% rebate in year 1, 50% in year 2, and 25% in year 3 as an inducement for them to move to the city of Vista? Anybody do anything like that?
Sure. So with sales tax, it is possible to do rebates on sales tax. The problem is that typically, at least in the business park, maybe there are some smaller retailers out there and smaller shops doing some retail sales, but predominantly it's more like the Amazon, and that goes into the county pool. So that's a little different. If it's not a point of sale,
We don't get our Measure L tax on Amazon?
I don't think you can. Well, I'll leave that to the attorney. I think you can rebate. You can touch property L because it's got to be spent on the things that.
Well, doesn't the Amazon facility, if it's bought from that facility, or is the tax collected by the residential address of the buyer?
It depends on the type of sale. If a point of sale, it would be by the consumer. If it's not point of sale.
Well, if I buy something at my house in Vista on Amazon, I mean, I pay the Measure L tax on it, do I not? I'm in Vista, they're delivering it from Vista, they would owe the tax. I don't know, sounds like we need to figure that out. I would like to see if there are other municipalities that have offered that, because a lot of potential occupants of those industrial spaces they don't have any retail component, and they wouldn't have a sales tax component. Of course, as a city, we'd like to induce those who create regular revenue for the city. And if we were to induce those who have a sales tax base to come to Vista, then we might stand a better chance of filling those vacancies. with businesses that in the next 5 years would generate substantial revenues to the city of Vista. That might be smart. What do you think? You like that idea, Larry?
I do like the idea of exploring that. We
we should look at that.
definitely love the sales tax, and it's an important part of what we do. Absolutely.
Cool. I see
right, so-
Councilmember O'Donnell had his button pushed. Did you have a?
Just a quick question for you. So I see on here that one of the things you featured was the Vista Brewers Guild, and that has yet to reform. I know that there's been a little bit of pushback from the San Diego Brewers Guild because there are so many breweries up here and such a large presence. So I did want to ask if we're doing anything here locally, because when I talk to a lot of the breweries or just distilleries or vineyards, there's not a lot of communication amongst the vast amount of them, and they are such a large driving force in economics and jobs and so many other areas of our city. Is there anything that we're kind of fine-tuning to try and get them all together, or is there something that's already being done that I'm just not aware of?
Yeah, no, that is on our 2025 to-do list as we get towards the end of the presentation, but that's definitely something we want to focus on this year. Along with the wayfinding, the wayfinding program, we anticipate a lot of communication with them and meetings about that, and hopefully that'll lead to a more regular check-in with them.
I house many of them in my district, so please keep me included in any of those discussions.
Yeah, we'll do.
Thank you.
So during 2022 and 2023, the largest part of our economic development program was, of course, administering the ARPA grants to help our local businesses recover from the pandemic. So we did have the ARPA grant, which was a direct assistance to businesses up to $25,000. That helped over 100 businesses. That was administered through the chamber. The chamber also conducted a workforce study, which we used to, kind of educate ourselves on the current happenings in the labor market and the demographics, as well as the top occupation growth and top industry growth that we should focus on. And this data is consistent with the data that was in the VEDS as of 2021. We also used those funds to waive fees for special events, film permits, the room rental for the Chamber Rising Star program, and we also did abate or eliminate up to $5,000 to attract new sit-down restaurants for their building permits. We also used this funds via the Vista Bucks program. So this was, we had two different programs. One was currently going on now. Use the QR code. You can get 50% bonus, so you buy $100 worth of Vista Bucks, you get $150. And that can be used at 56 local businesses currently, and we're always trying to expand that list. And we also, last year, did a 100% rebate on the cost of your Wave season pass. So you buy a season pass for, I think, up to four. A family of four could buy 4 season passes, and all of that was rebated via a Vista Bucks. So all told, we've put, through this program, $100,000 into the cash registers of our local businesses, and we have $36,000 left in that program. And I can tell you, last year, in 2023, they sold 1,300 season passes to the Wave. And in 2024, we nearly doubled that with 2,500 season passes. Another tool that we use is called SizeUp, and this is an online service available at no cost to local entrepreneurs. It gives them big data that typically only big businesses can obtain. And it's a powerful research tool, helps them make informed decisions about where to find suppliers, where to target their marketing messages, and where to open a second or third location. We also use the Placer AI, which tracks visitors and foot traffic to our shopping centers and to our downtown. And it also helps us identify prospects for vacant storefronts. So to get to your point, Councilmember O'Donnell, we can use Placer AI to find out, they're going to want to know, potential users are going to want to know what's the foot traffic in this center, and so we can provide that for them. Also, what the demographics are for that center, because that's different, potentially different than the demographics of the city of Vista, right? Another tool we use is called HubSpot, and this is our CRM. We can track and support our annual business retention and expansion visits, all the project assists that we do, where we're just answering inquiries, or if a business has an issue with something, we track all of those. We also conduct our BRE surveys, our marketing list, our landing pages, our email marketing goes through this, and the beauty of it is it syncs our contacts and emails with Outlook. So every email, for example, that I have with a hotel developer is automatically stored in HubSpot. So anybody, if I get hit by a bus tomorrow, somebody can pull up the system and see, oh, Larry's talked to this person. Okay, let's reach out. One of the projects we did last year, and this also speaks to filling some of those vacant storefronts, is a targeted restaurant recruitment. So we heard from the council via, just comments at the dais that we need more sit-down restaurant options. And with the help of the summer internship program that the chamber runs, we had some interns gather information on 200 existing North County highly rated restaurants on Yelp in all different categories. We tracked down their contact information, and we developed a drip email marketing campaign to them. And so far we've recruited 3 out of the 5 that we've targeted. Again, we used the ARPA to waive $5,000 in their building permit, which we're going to get back in less than a year typically on these restaurants. And you would not believe the comments that I get back about how helpful even $5,000 is for somebody starting business, especially if they're going into a first generation space and converting that to be a first generation restaurant space. Just ask 7 C's. Of course, retaining existing businesses and helping them grow is where we get the biggest bang for our buck. 80 to 90% of new jobs come from existing companies. And so we want to make sure that, and they've already invested in Vista. It's a lot easier to retain a business who's already invested here, whose employees already live and work here, than it is to recruit a new business from out of the area. And so we spend a lot of time, the mayor gives us a lot of his time to go out and talk to these companies. We also had 2 SBDC Start a Business classes here in our community room, one in Spanish, one in English, to help our local entrepreneurs who have questions about starting a business. The workforce development folks came, they spoke at one of the seminars. The Hyatt Place donates their conference room, so we can use that for these programs. And we also had a seminar on the Green Business Certification and the master's program at Cal State San Marcos. They all do a project, and Roger was there to talk about that opportunity as well for our local businesses. We've expanded that a little bit to make sure that our small businesses are also being connected with. And so we just do staff visits where I just pick a strip center and just walk it and hand out business resource guides, hand out a brochure, both in Spanish and in English, on the Size Up tool, and my business card, so they have a contact here at City Hall. In a couple weeks, on April 15th, the CVBID Advisory Board, we're actually conducting a business walk throughout the bid, so it'll be fun. We also have a facade improvement program. We budget $25,000 per year to help entrepreneurs who are going into a new space or have an existing space that they want to enhance and beautify. It goes about creating a beautiful vista. This past year, 7 C's, the removal of that mural that was falling apart that ran adjacent to our parking lot, and also the construction of the porch or the dining seating area out front.
Councilmember O'Donnell?
So I appreciate you bringing that up because I have a question relative to that. So I have a business owner in my community that was forced to invest $25,000 in a sidewalk to make it ADA compliant. Is there any program that we have in the city of Vista that might be able to offset that cost for people that want to come here and do business in our city? Because it almost stopped their entire business from opening, and they're not a wealthy family by any means. It's a small family that just want to do a family-owned. It's Sabora Vita, which I'm sure you're familiar with, right over there in Shadow Ridge. Is there anything that we have or any programs that we have that might be able to offset those costs?
Is that a public sidewalk or a private sidewalk?
I'm pretty sure it's private because it's in that little strip mall.
Yeah, no, we don't really have anything specific to that.
Okay.
We just got another small business about ready to open, realized that the gas service to his business is not big enough. That's a $40,000 hit to from SDG&E at like a week before he wants to open. So there are always like opportunities to help, but we just don't have the funds.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of horror stories from pizza joints that have opened and all of the ventilation and the heating units and air conditioning are out of whack. And next thing you know, same thing, $40,000 to $100,000 bill. And there's a lot of improvements that need to be made. And I understand that that's kind of part of doing business. But it's really unfortunate because I think it stops a lot of small business owners from having the ability to actually come here because they're thwarted away by the cost of actually making the repairs. But I was just curious about that, so I appreciate it.
Yeah, so part of our ombudsman services is, when people are calling and they're asking about available properties, is kind of giving them advice along the way that, hey, look out for this, look out for that, make sure this is lined up, make sure you talk to your, negotiate in your rent some tenant improvement costs and make sure that your landlord is willing to take care of things outside of your tenant space.
I'm confident we're already doing that, but if we are not, please share that information with any new business owner.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Another one taking advantage of the facade improvement program is shacks. And so you'll notice, if you recall, last year and previous years, they had those maroon like fabric wind shades that they would put up. Not the most attractive thing, and they agreed. And so they found this company in Texas that makes glass partitions. And when it's really windy, there's actually more glass inside that you can extend it up, so it can be up to like 6 feet tall, I believe it is. So it's totally see-through. Now the diners can actually look out onto the street, and the street can look into the patio space. It looks really great. In fact, it's going to be on it's already on the blog of the company that sells it, but it's on their website. But it's also going to be in all their print brochures as well because it looks great. The CVBID, their annual budget is about $50,000, and that comes, from the special assessment that businesses in the bid pay. With that money, they use it to operate the Downtown Vista website, social media, and the Vista Bucks program. Last year, they funded, partially funded, they give grants of up to $15,000. And so they funded 8 events in 2024. This year, with the help of the money that you all set aside in the year-end fund balance, we're more than doubling that. So our goal was to get 1 per month, and we're going to overachieve. So it's going to be awesome. Of course, some of the highlights in 2024, we did have a lot of good business openings in Vista with some large employers. M2 Ingredients, before they even opened, needed to expand because of additional orders. So they grow 13 varieties of mushrooms. They dehydrate that and turn that into powder, and they are, once they're up and running with this second line, they will be the largest manufacturer of powdered mushrooms in North America. K-Tech, which among other things makes the Scotty Cameron putter, and Granite Construction, which we got to visit, 60 employees there, Alsco, which we got to visit as well, UPS, and of course, the very popular Trader Joe's. Some of the businesses that we have an eye on for 2025 include, as the mayor mentioned, the American Lithium Batteries, 75 employees. Part of this onshoring and some of the federal legislation that's occurred around electric cars. If you want the rebate, a certain portion of your vehicle needs to be made in the U.S. by U.S. companies. And so that's fulfilling some of that mission. We're hearing Black Bear Diner in June. Pleased to announce that Rivian has chosen Vista as their North County service center. So that is the place where all Rivian owners will take their car for service.
Which facility is that, Larry?
It's in the business park.
Okay, good.
Dutch Bros, they opened their second location in the city down on Hacienda last Thursday, I believe it is. And hopefully Coombra Wines will open in 2025. No updates. All right, so as we move to 2025 to 2027 in the VEDS, we want to increase our virtual and drop-in visitation program for existing businesses. We want to really boost the attendance at our quarterly seminar programs at Hyatt Place. So far, it's been difficult, and the city manager's office has agreed to give us 20-25% share of the new analyst position, who you all know, who has a background in marketing and promotion. And so we hope that by using LinkedIn, we can connect better with our employers and the employees that are working out at the Vista Business Park, and make sure that they, again, a way that we can communicate, here are resources that are available to help your business succeed. How can we get those in your hands? And so this would be another outlet for that. And we'll use some Google Ads and digital promotion to make sure that we target the right people and are able to draw them into the network. Exciting to announce that in 2025, in July, we will launch the Vista Business Hub, which is a free online support and training community for all Vista businesses. This will be a central place for entrepreneurs to connect, receive free training, perhaps one-on-one technical assistance in areas like accounting, legal, marketing, and et cetera. And pending the funding in the budget, we can take that to the next level by providing the technical assistance to local businesses from local businesses. So the cool thing about this program is this isn't somebody in, Fargo, North Dakota talking about how to market your company. It's somebody in Vista helping our Vista entrepreneurs to market their companies. So it not only benefits our new businesses, but it helps generate business for our existing businesses. We'd love to partner with the chamber and do a business plan competition, and then as a result of that, offer a hybrid business incubator program for the winners that would curate a curriculum specific to startups that they would be expected to follow through on in exchange for free rent at the Film Hub and connection to technical assistance as well. Here's some screenshots of the beauty of the Vista Business Hub. It's basically an online community for our entrepreneurs. And I've heard also from a lot of work-at-home entrepreneurs and work-at-home professionals that feel disconnected from the community, from their coworkers. And this is an opportunity, I think, to put them all in the same place online where they can share, let's do a coffee club, tomorrow morning at the Starbucks, and they can all go to the Starbucks together and meet up there. Just do little meetups, do mastermind classes, and those types of things. It will also help us quantify who we're helping, because now we have real solid data about who our business owners are, what their needs are. And so we can tailor our programs to meet those needs. So the reporting that will come out of the hub is unbelievable. We'll know how many took advantage of technical assistance, what areas did they need assistance with, how many are women-owned, how many page views, how many classes were taken, what's the most popular class, all of those things that right now we just don't know. Also in 2025, again, the marketing and promotion of the as a business-friendly city to fill the vacancies in the business park. And John and I were talking about this and about the increase in vacancy. And our biggest sales force is the brokerage community. The brokers are the ones talking to these companies. And fortunately, our relationship with the brokerage community is very strong. They know that Vista is the place to go. When we were competing for Rivian, the brokers knew. They shortlisted down to 2, and they basically called me and said, Larry, it's between you and this other community, but I know 30 minutes on the phone with you guys is gonna send it to Vista. I got Joe Vaca in the room, and he and I called Rivian, and Joe said, what do you need to choose Vista? And the guy said, well, I don't want to go through a lengthy process. And he says, it's done. Turn in your plans tomorrow. And that's how we get things done here. Like, it is incredible. And the brokers know it, and they're out there selling Vista as well, because they want a quick deal. They don't want to send somebody through a 9-month, hoops to jump through and everything else. We also want to revitalize the AVO, turn it into a modern venue for live events. We want to implement the downtown committee recommendations, work through that process. Currently trying to attract hotel developers, working with 5 different hotel developers on 3 potential sites. And then here, Councilmember O'Donnell, brewery, winery, et cetera, we want to do the wayfinding program and the marketing programs. Really promote that for local tourism. I mean, we are so fortunate. I think we have a Google map that has all the tasting rooms. I think we're up to 32 now. I think 23 of them are breweries, but we are so fortunate. I mean, it used to be a thing in economic development if you could get one in
I
your
don't think
city.
people realize how many wineries we have. I mean, not vineyards, but wineries here.
Right, the tasting rooms. Yeah, absolutely. So these are resources. These are things we want to capitalize and take advantage of, and these are entrepreneurs that we want to help. And we can't do it by ourselves. I sat in a meeting the other day at Cal State San Marcos, and in that room were the economic developers from the 5 cities, an associate dean from Miracosta College, and the person who runs the venture hub at Cal State San Marcos, and Connect. And the interim CEO of Connect said, I want to take this model and I want to duplicate this all across the county. And when it was my turn to speak, I said, good luck, because I've worked all over the country and this doesn't happen. And we are very fortunate. We know that when we compete as a region, we can compete right up against the best of them. And so that's what we do, and we can't do it without our partners and your support. So I really appreciate it.
Great work, Larry. Good presentation. You and all of your partners. Thanks for giving our planning department a shout out. And Joe, thanks for rolling out the red carpet to bring new businesses to Vista. We all really appreciate that very much. Deputy Mayor Melendez.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Larry, for this presentation. We really can't do it alone. I appreciate you giving us a good amount of information tonight, not just from the city's perspective, but also our partners that we work with. So I'm sure our council has a lot of comments, but to kick it off, I just had a few. And, I know a lot of us are concerned about the business park vacancy. That 8.8% is pretty high. And, for such an important economic center in our town, it's really something that we want to look at. I know we have vacancies all over the city, but we're definitely concerned about that. And you mentioned that it was likely large operations consolidating that resulted in them moving out of these larger spaces. I would just be concerned that that, along with increasing rents, could potentially be a trend that would impact our smaller operators. And so it's just something I think we should watch out for. There are minimal protections for commercial tenants, and so the folks that we have over there in our business park, as much as we can, protect them and keep them there. I'd want to be watchful of that. I don't want that percentage to get any higher. I would be very concerned for that. I think the technical assistance is awesome, right? Some of the technical assistance we heard from our partners. And then you mentioned this hub service, free to local businesses. What is the cost of that for City of Vista?
Yeah, it is $46,000, and it's open to every business in the city of Vista.
And what it sounds like is that there's really opportunity to develop coalitions where, there can be some information and potentially cost sharing amongst these businesses as they're not just competing, but collaborating.
Absolutely.
Gaining knowledge together. I think that will be interesting. This would be our first year implementing it. Okay, let's see how it goes. We definitely want feedback on that. And it sounds like there's several opportunities for technical assistance with, the variety of programs that we're engaged in and partnered with. So this would be another platform for that. And I would like to see kind of what the outcomes are for the hub.
One distinction, I'm sorry. One distinction, Connect is kind of like for teenage companies. This would be for like infants and toddlers.
Yes,
Yeah.
local, right,
We
very small.
want to help all levels.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. So this would probably be more open to all businesses, a little bit more inclusive.
Yes.
Okay, cool. I want to, express my support for hospitality development, accommodations, hotels, resort, motels, whether it's a small scale project or a larger project, really depending on the location. I just, I really want to share this. I've shared this with the public. I have expressed this to my council. I really don't want us to miss out on any opportunities in hospitality. We live in the most beautiful place in the world. We have such amazing features of our own city. Plus, we're settled into a region that is extremely attractive, and we are, if we're not actively seeking out those partnerships and opportunities and land uses, then we could be missing out on big opportunities. So I'm having conversations as well, and hope we can put some ideas together for what some options could look like for hotel development, because the opportunities are just so big for our small community to be able to engage in at least a little bit of the tourism that's coming out of some of those coastal cities. Man, we can't miss out on that. That's just a really important next phase for our city. Plus, we have good entertainment. We have good restaurants, right? There's enough here in Vista for people to want to come to, but we can't ignore where we're situated in our beautiful region. And then, more locally focused, I would really love to see how we can revitalize neighborhood economic zones, right? Kind of those tucked away strip malls that are underutilized. I know that from a planning perspective, we've looked at our commercial zoning and we're looking at reimagining some of those spaces, but what can we do from an economic development perspective, right? I'm sure, Larry, you and I could sit down and I could tell you my favorite hole in the wall spots and what neighborhood they're nestled into. And it might not be, those prominent areas like the business park or like our downtown, but these are neighborhood spots that I think we really want to look at and see if there's more economic opportunity there. So, happy to continue to talk offline about some of those tucked away places, right? How we can revitalize those closer neighborhood knit spots. And then just really want to emphasize, I appreciate Councilmember Fox, your reference to collaboration over competition. And when you said that, it immediately made me think of our mission statement as a city, that we're enhancing the uniqueness of our community. And I really do think that there's opportunities for everyone here. But I think, with this economic development strategy, I would like to encourage us to be even more inclusive, right? And even more supportive to our business community, which I think we're on the right track for. So really appreciate the updates, and thank you for continuing to brief us on what's going right and what's going wrong, right? We need the good news and the bad news, but locally, I think that we have some really strong opportunities. Appreciate it.
Councilmember O'Donnell.
Yeah, I've asked most of my questions. I just do want to say the deputy mayor is spot on when it comes to, one, collaborating with the smaller areas that maybe are lesser known but are amazing opportunities or just places that we like. I know that we've already started kind of working on highlighting businesses in our respective districts, but if there are some that we can continue to work together as council members to highlight that, working with our media team, I think that is a great idea to work and collaborate on all of those things so we can highlight different areas of the city. Hotel development, I could not agree with you more. As the city continues to grow, as we bring in greater economic development, I know that we've had opportunities with hotels coming in. One didn't happen. I know there is one going into my district that is going to probably break ground soon. But we need to be taking advantage as much as we can to try and bring those entities into Vista and try and capture the stuff that is happening in our neighboring cities, and the investment and what they're bringing over. If we can try and get some of that spillage and capture some of those dollars, it is beneficial to everybody. The third thing I will say is this. One, thank you for the presentation. I happened to run into a former staff member in the city of Vista that now works at a neighboring city. And I will let you know that they had not had the opportunity to work with you in any capacity in your role here in Vista, but they get to work with you a little bit more now. And they had nothing but great things to say about the work you're doing and how hard you work and all that you're doing to try and drive business development here in the city. So I just wanted to share that with you and say thank you for the good work. Keep it up. Same to you, Joe, back there. And Imelda, you're back there. Keep it up as well. But really appreciate the work and the efforts and the presentation tonight. If I have any other questions, I'll let you know.
Councilmember Contreras.
Yeah, thank you so much, Larry, and team. When we work together, we can accomplish a lot, right? And that's kind of the theme with our smaller businesses too, and some business side hustles that turn into like a full-fledged business, right? And so it's great to hear about the Vista Business Hub. I want to continue to get updates on that. I also just want to underscore, I totally agree with the comments regarding having more hotels, right? We have Front Wave Arena, which is not too far. Curious about, different ways to, even with our current hotels, how to maximize the occupancy of the hotels. Can we look at, Front Wave's schedule and some of the other entertainment that we have here in Vista and be like, hey, is there some kind of a, stay here for 2 nights, you get to go to the Moonlight and you get to do this at Front Wave or something like that, right? Package deals or whatever the case might be. I do have a question. I really appreciate that you're, being inclusive of the Spanish-speaking community. If I were a business that received your information, I'm looking at it in Spanish and I, reach out, what is the process? Because I know that we don't have a ton of Spanish speakers on staff that may be able to, connect with the businesses when they call in. So can you give me just so I can visualize an idea of like, I'm a business owner, I'm Spanish speaking, and I want to follow up with you. What's that process like?
Yeah, that has happened in the past. Typically, what has happened is they would call, a lot of times it's their high school student, would call with them and kind of do a translation. That's happened maybe 2 or 3 times. right off the top of my head, I think if someone called and couldn't speak English, I'd run down the hall to Imelda and say, come bail me out. I mean, I love going to Mexico, but I'm definitely not fluent in Spanish. So I would definitely lean on Imelda to help me with that. We also, I can tell you, the hub, the online hub, all in Spanish as well as English. So everyone is going to have an opportunity to participate in that.
Okay, that's good to know. And you know, I figured that this would be the case if someone like physically is calling the city. And so I just really want to underscore for my colleagues how incredibly important it is to have Spanish speakers available, because Imelda could only be taking so many calls. But you know, I really do want to see, you know, how we can fill that void. Can we get more Spark interns? Can we, you know, what is it that we can do? And I don't know if you have any ideas or anybody has any ideas right now, but this is something that is critical for our city to succeed, because, you know, when I am talking to some of the small businesses in District 1, where the business owner primarily speaks Spanish, they do feel left behind. I know that the Chamber of Commerce is, you know, having other initiatives as well, but people still don't feel like they're connected. So, you know, I would love to see how we could strategize as a city to connect with some of those businesses. In fact, you know, some of these businesses have been here for such a long time, right? And some other ones have expanded. Yeah, they used to be one bakery and now there's two, right? Or whatever the case might be. So I really do want to dig into this communication barrier that we have. I really want to commend the city in moving forward, how they've moved forward to be more inclusive of the Spanish-speaking population. I think this is one area where we could probably do a lot more work. So I would love to, you know, continue to have a conversation with you and city manager offline to see what we can do. And hey, if that is, you know, some kind of a budget allocation, then I would love to be able to bring that to my council and have that discussion as well. But outside of that, thank you so much. And I do look forward to all the opportunities that we have here in Vista to continue to highlight our businesses, incubate businesses, and really see some economic growth and vitality in the city. So thank you for your work on that.
Councilmember Fox.
Thank you very much for the presentation. There's a lot of really good information in there. I did have a chance to look through the is it VEDS, VEDS? I don't know, is that how you, like an acronym for it? Okay. Strategy document, and I got this VEDS, yeah. And with the 12 strategies and everything, and it looked like there was a lot that was done since that 2021, just looking through and seeing what's been checked off. And so kudos to that. And I did see, I think there were a couple of new additions on it, or it could just be things that I didn't see the first time when I was going through it. So adding some of the branded programming kind of things in there with what I think they said with this VistaWorks in here, but I really like the idea of, you know, I'm a branding guy. That's what I do. And so, you know, the ideas of like, you know, branding a lot of our programs with similar names so that they're memorable, that they stick in people's heads so they know that it's a Vista program, that we're doing it, and that, you know, that's something that they can be part of. I liked the Vista Made brand, I believe we used for a lot of things. And so I could see that if we're trying to focus on industries like private, you know, creator type people who are, you know, starting small businesses in their garages and stuff, and then eventually maybe need to start a place in our business park to start manufacturing and, you know, start growing their business. So I'm a big fan of that. I really like the idea of focusing on the businesses we have and the talent we have here and expanding it rather than attracting. I know we were on that Round Rock trip, and you know, listening to how they kind of recruit people out there with giant financial incentives. And I don't think did they have a sales tax, or I think it was a property tax refund, right?
Yeah, it was actually, they had a property tax allocation of 0.5 cent.
Yeah.
Went just to economic development to throw money at companies, yeah.
Yeah, just for incentive packages and stuff. So it was a very interesting thing. 0.5 cent of every sales tax dollar, you know, went into economic development for these types of programs, and they would offer some businesses breaks on based off their sales tax rebates and things like that. And so it was their incentive structures were pretty tough to compete with, I think, but because a lot of it was state driven and you know, insanely high property tax driven. So very interesting though. When it comes to the large scale hospitality, I think that's a cool idea. I really like the idea of focusing on some of our strengths, things that like we have that the Moonlight is world class when it comes to the different shows we get and the talent we get there. I think we need to make sure that we're not trying to create Legoland 2 or something like that and trying to compete with Carlsbad at something that and lean into what we're good at and leverage that to attract both local tourism from other cities, because things like the Wave and the Moonlight and stuff like that, probably a lot of Vista residents. But if we expand and try to recruit from our neighboring cities, it's probably a good place for us to get people, and then they'll have dinner here and maybe use some accommodations, maybe not. But I think that's a good one. I really like the idea of the incubator. I think having some sort of pitch competition and trying to grow some of those businesses from within sounds like an awesome idea. I'd be very curious to see if Connect or one of those organizations would be interested in partnering with us on it, since they do them already, and have them maybe judge it or something, or so that they know about some of the businesses that are coming up here, even if they're infants and toddlers rather than teenagers. Maybe they still have some potential investor opportunities, and they wouldn't, if they don't know the businesses exist, they can't bring those opportunities here. So I think that's great. I wrote down a lot of stuff. I liked I did see in the previous one the arts and entertainment focus, and with the, I think we are getting a lot of movement there with the AVO and everything like that. And I did mention doing something like a film festival, which I'm proud to announce we are working on actively, trying to get that up and running. Actually, I think the Film Hub was one of the people trying to get that going. So we currently do a Strawberry Film Festival during the Strawberry Festival with them. So we're trying to expand it to a fully fledged film festival at some point. So maybe that'll work into this economic development strategy at some point. One thing I did see in the beginning of it that I thought was really interesting is the difference between local cluster and traded cluster jobs, where local cluster jobs are ones that focus on serving Vista residents, so things like restaurants and service industry and things like that. And it was about 62% of Vista jobs are that local cluster versus traded cluster. And I was looking at the list of jobs or industries in those, and those traded cluster jobs were a lot higher paid. And I think that was pretty much a down the list. The average was double almost. It was the highest paid local cluster jobs were kind of the lowest paid traded cluster jobs. So I would be curious to think, is there something that we should be focusing on trying to expand the more traded cluster jobs? Or do you think it's something where by focusing on things like the local tourism and some of those types of things, we can help the local cluster jobs succeed better and be more successful?
Well, I think one thing that has helped the wages on those local clusters is the minimum wage increase at the fast food restaurants. So that data may have changed a little bit since 2021. But yeah, definitely our focus is, at least when it comes to attraction, is working with the regional EDC to take those biotech, the tech, manufacturing, advanced manufacturing, for us, food manufacturing, more so than the other communities in North County. That's kind of been our specialty. We've got a great cluster of, you walk up and down the aisles of Costco and some of the other Albertsons, and that potato salad, that was probably made in the Vista Business Park and a lot of other things. So we've got a great cluster that we want to expand on and take advantage of for sure.
All right. When it comes to the ARPA, the $5,000 fee waiver, the facade improvement, things like the CVBID, are there any programs that you think would be worth looking into expanding into, either in the amount per offer or like in the location? I know some of that stuff is downtown only focused. Is that something that would be interested in expanding?
Yeah, there's none that are downtown. Well, CVBI, any funds from the CVBID have to be spent in the downtown, yes, but the facade grants are citywide. Now, that number of, we rebate up to 50% or $15,000 to a maximum of $15,000. So things have definitely changed. I think that was probably created 8-9 years ago. So you don't get a lot for $15,000, and So that could be an approach. Also, if you take like the former Vons, and if we're going to do a facade improvement across, something that big, that would be much more than $30,000 to where we would rebate half of 15. And we'd also want to incorporate, the rest of that facade of the strip mall. So why are you just going to do one chunk of it, right? So that's definitely, maybe a little pot we set aside a little bit every year to go towards a big commercial strip mall that's maybe in a neighborhood under single ownership, and we could help them revitalize that and update it, beautify it.
I could see that being an important thing because number one, we have some large footprint retail that is vacant. I see a lot of it on the East Vista Way corridor with some of the 99-cent stores and some of those kinds of things going the wayside. So, I think that is one of the things that I think a lot of people are concerned about is some of those older buildings that have been vacant for a long time. I think I saw that Vons has a potential new tenant on the presentation, so that's great. But the other thing is I know that a lot of the economic development things, like the fee waiver for restaurants and things like that, you said those repay within a year. And so that's new revenue that we're gaining as a city that pays these programs back and then is profitable within a year. And as a business person, anything profitable within a year is a great venture, a great investment. So
yeah, thanks for bringing that up. That's actually something that Placer helps us identify the gaps. So based upon our demographics, our population, how much income our city has, we should be able to support X amount of square feet of fast food or casual dining. We are way low on that. So Vistans are leaving our city to go do fast casual at other locations in other cities. So we know that there's a demand for it. And so to throw $5,000, again, it's a lot of money to a small business, and really, we would recoup that in 1 year of a sales tax. And then if you just had a fund of, let's say, $25,000 and we targeted 5 sit-down restaurants a year, I mean, that's a program that could just perpetuate itself from increased sales tax. So that could be something we could look at.
Yeah, and I think with what Councilmember O'Donnell said, with some of those large capital kind of investments that some of these places have to do because they're aging old retail that maybe need some upgrades in things like venting and gas lines and stuff. Would that be something where this program could potentially look if it was?
Well, I mean, you could, but whether you save them $5,000 on the building permit or you save them $5,000 on a sidewalk repair, it's all right.
It's $5,000.
Yeah,
that makes sense. And then the last thing is, I'd love to hear what we did as a city to get Rivian here, and I was just wondering if there's anything else that you would recommend this council could do to make that process any easier or improve Vista as a business-friendly city. Any shackles that we can take off,
Yeah. No, I think this all really comes down to John's leadership as community development director for so long and understanding the needs of business. And hiring Joe, who's very like-minded. It's been a seamless transition from the broker's perspective. They're like, yeah, they got a new community development director, but he's just like John. So let's get it done. Let's bring him to Vista. And so really it starts with the zoning ordinance. And, we've had that in place a long time. And it's the reason we have 23 breweries is because we became the brewery hub because you couldn't go anywhere else in San Diego County and have a permitted use tasting room in an industrial zone. John and Kevin saw that 25 years ago or 20 years ago and said, change the zoning ordinance. We're making it administrative approval. And where did they go? They go the path of least resistance. They came to Vista. So that kind of foresight, and we're always looking for ways we can improve. Joe and I are always talking about that doesn't make sense. Rivian in a lot of ways, it says auto repair. If you drive by this building, you could guess 100 times of what's in that. You would never guess auto repair. So what's really the intent of that ordinance, right? They don't want a bunch of junk cars in the parking lot cluttering the business park. That's the last thing we want. This is all inside. It's all indoor. It's all enclosed. So just being reasonable with your interpretations go a long way. And we take that lead from you all. If you all were the opposite, we would have to be the opposite, right? So you guys setting the tone of, hey, attract more business, be business friendly, attract good jobs for our residents. And we're just taking those marching orders and executing.
Wonderful. I would say that, I don't want to lose our title, so I think I'm all on board on that. So, I will say that I had a couple friends that opened breweries here in Vista that had tried other cities first and struggled, and they had things like requirements to build 20 restroom stalls and have double the parking and all this kind of stuff because they didn't understand what kind of businesses they were. And so I think that was one thing when they came to Vista, and you guys, the city did a great job of actually hearing what is your parking requirement? What is how many people do you actually have in at once? Is this a full restaurant, or is this something where it's a tasting room a little smaller? So I think that was something that we did really well on. But that's it for now, and I think I probably took enough of everybody's time with that. So thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Contreras.
Councilmember Fox, thank you actually for bringing up VEDS. This is something that it was my honor to serve on this committee, and I thought the plan came out great. And what was really unusual is we had a pandemic. So, it was actually just interesting to see that we were able to fund some of these things before we anticipated we were able to fund it, right? And even looking at the internship program that the chamber has, we provided the seed money for that. And that's something I remember the chamber's CEO, Rachel Beld, on the phone call, virtual call, and, I was bringing it up, she was bringing it up, and it's just amazing to see what that has grown into. So the question being is, VEDS has a certain time horizon. What do we anticipate is going to happen after 2027? Are we going to, I always think it's good practice to update, our plans. So is there anything brewing for, 2027, 2028, for, looking back at the VEDS? It's a different world now, really. So I would love to see us, have another effort. But what are some of is there anything planned? Can you let me know about that?
Yeah, it's definitely, good practice. So the VEDS came from, in the industry, there's a national program called a CEDS, Certified Economic Development Strategy, and that's required by the federal government in order to get federal grants. And so it's always good practice that every 7 to 10 years, especially if your city has undergone a lot of change, if you're a rural community in the Central Valley and not much has changed, it's probably not required. But Vista would definitely benefit every 7 years or so to update that. And you could see from the VEDS, obviously, that we didn't end, I think in the VEDS we said, we need to build more Class A office space. Well, good luck.
Yeah, that's a perfect example, right? Like we were seeing at, the type of office space that we had was like not Class A, and we had high vacancy, and now it's a totally different world. So I really would implore the city to start thinking about how we're going to reanalyze our economic development strategy, and that we move forward in that direction of putting together another. I think this process was really great, and I got to see it firsthand. Eric was part of it as well, and just a lot of good stakeholders, Mayor Ritter. So I would love to know that for sure we are going to look at updating our Vista economic development strategy somewhere around, 2027, 28 year, since this was looking, more like a 5-year plan. So whether I'm here or not, I want people to, here in the city, to to do this effort all over again, which could be a big undertaking. But, you know, it bears a lot of fruit. And, you know, just having seen this again for this workshop today, it was an important exercise, and it has really beneficial consequences for the city. But thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can tell you that it could be a less costly endeavor as well, just because a lot of this data is now readily available, whereas before you'd have to buy a bunch of data and a consultant and everything else. So it'd be a pretty easy update that staff, and along with Eric at the San Diego North EDC with some of the data, and then we've got our workforce data from the workforce board, so we can get it done. Yeah.
Low cost is great. Thanks.
Last thought that I have is with regard to interns. It's great if we have the money. We did through ARPA. I don't think we do anymore to pay interns, but there are businesses in our community that would love to have interns and would be willing to pay them if they knew who the applicants were. I think we could be useful in connecting young people, as we talked about youth unemployment being higher. If there were young people who had taken the affirmative initiative to complete an application for, a job bank of interns, I think that would signal to employers that those young people had gone above and beyond in their desire to be employed, and I think it would be good for them. Maybe we could help make some connections there, even without spending a lot of money. The last thought, I just want to, as I sit here and think about it, this idea that I came up with on the fly, which I didn't really come up with, other jurisdictions have done it. I looked up the state law says we can rebate up to 30% of our local portion of the sales tax. If we did have an incentive for those businesses that would benefit because they have sales tax to pay, then we would be more likely to recruit businesses who pay sales tax. In other words, Rivian is a sales tax paying business every time they sell a part, versus if we had some kind of a service-based business or a business that only sold wholesale, we would get jobs, but we wouldn't get the tax revenue. But I think by having an incentive to offer, it would also give that brokerage community in the county something to talk about. Hey, Vista wants to fill up their vacancies, they're offering an incentive. So I think not only might it help us to bring jobs to those vacant facilities sooner, but I think it might also equal a better likelihood of having sales tax generating businesses in those currently vacant locations. So I think that we should take a look at that, and I've asked that we bring that back for a full discussion in a future meeting. Seeing no other speakers on our special meeting tonight, we're adjourned. Thank you very much for your great presentation, Larry.